utensils, fridge, appliances, so on and so forth, and how they need to be cleaned. Now, Mr. Shem, we're going to be learning about the actual mitzvah of B'dikas Chametz. B'dikas Chametz means checking for Chametz. And that's Mr. Shem we're going to cover today. Then we're going to cover the halachas of ta'aruves chametz, mixtures, products that have mixtures of chametz, such as shampoo, soap, conditioner, other different products, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Then we're going to cover kasher and kalim, how to do kasher, certain vessels, utensils. Okay, so as we mentioned, today, Mitzvah Hashem, we're starting the halachas of B'dikas Chametz. B'dikas Chametz is a mitzvah, midrabanan. It's a rabbinical mitzvah to check the entire house. Thank you. For Chametz, this includes not just the house, but if somebody has any other properties, thank you. If somebody has any other properties, a car, so on and so forth, there's a rabbinic mitzvah to check all of these places for Chametz. So until now, as we mentioned just shortly minutes ago, we learned how to prepare the house, right? How to clean before Pesach, what needs to be cleaned, what does not need to be cleaned, if dust is chametz, so on and so forth, right? Is it? No, it's not. Yeah,
it depends who you ask. Some people need a reminder, that Rabbi.
Okay. Yeah. They're learning Hilchas spring cleaning. That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So now, after you prepare the house, you clean everything. The house is more or less getting ready for Pesach. Comes the night of Yud Daled Nissan. So you have Yud Gimel Nissan. So let's put things into perspective. Next week, Thursday, is Yud Gimel Nissan. Thursday night is going to be early Yud Daled Nissan. The night going into Yud Daled Nissan. Yud Daled Nissan is out of Pesach. And then Friday night this year is going to be Pesach. So Thursday night, there's a mitzvah to check the house for chametz. So how is this mitzvah performed? What are all the halachas associated with it? In Mitzvah Shem, that's what we're covering today. So there's two mitzvahs really. There's the mitzvah to destroy chametz, bir chametz, that if you have any tangible chametz, there's a mitzvah to destroy it. And there's another way to get rid of chametz, there's another mitzvah called bittul. Bittul means that you completely nullify it. It's not yours. It's as if you have no, you're mafkeret. You give it, it's not yours. Whoever wants to take it, it's, how do you say hefker in English? Ownerless. It's ownerless. Whoever wants to take it, it's not yours. It does not belong to you. So, on a Torah perspective, midiraisa from the mitzvah min Torah, on a biblical level, it's enough to get rid of the chametz through either or. Either you can do an entire beer of chametz, you can go search the entire house and destroy all the chametz that you find, or you can do bittul. Bittul, that means you nullify it, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It's hefker, it's ownerless. Whoever wants can come and take it, it has nothing to do with you. So Chachamim, Chazal, the rabbinic sages, said you should do both. Why? Because when you do bittul, when you nullify something and you announce that it's no longer yours, this is something which is dependent in your heart. Right? A person has a choice to nullify something, whether they want to or they not. Whether they want to or they don't want to. And the Chachamim were worried maybe somebody's not going to fully give up the possession of their chametz. Oh, that's really good chametz. I don't really want to give it up. I'm going to do it because I have to, but I don't really want to. Right? If that's what they feel, that's a problem. It's not a full nullification. It still belongs to you. So therefore, the Chachamim gave us the mitzvah of not just to nullify it, but to also go and destroy all the chametz. So we have to do both. Now, today, we do something else. We also sell our chametz. That to Mitzvah Hashem we're going to discuss later. Whatever chametz we're not destroying and we're not nullifying, we're not just giving it up as hefker, as ownerless. We have a special minhag that we do, that we actually sell it to the guy. That to Mitzvah Hashem we're going to discuss. We set it aside. We label it, we make sure that nobody has any access to it. That's a different discussion. So now let's begin with the actual mitzvah of Bedikas Chametz. So as we mentioned, this year it falls out on Thursday night. So we know in the evening there's two times. There's Shkia. Shkia is when the sun begins to set. And after that is Pesach when the stars actually come out. It's already fully nighttime. So the mitzvah of Bedikas Chametz starts right away at the beginning of nighttime, right away at the beginning of Tzeis. It's called Pesach in English, nightfall. As simple as that, right? As soon as the night comes, it's nightfall. It's nightfall means it's night. So it's very, very special, actually. Every other mitzvah, you usually have a gap of time. Let's say for the mitzvah of Kriya Shema, in the morning, you have from Midiraisa, from Eloisa Shachem, Midiraban, from Yitzcham, or whatever it is, but you have a certain gap. From this time to that time, within this gap of time, you have to read Shema. Right? Okay, it doesn't apply to women because it's a mitzvah, it's a mitzvah which is dependent on time, but when it comes to Bedikas Chametz, the mitzvah is to do it right away by nighttime. As soon as nighttime comes in, the mitzvah is to do it right away then. That's how the Chachamim established this mitzvah. Now, what do we use to do Bedikas Chametz? We use the light of a candle, haner, because haner, it's brought down as Yachal B'dika. The light, a candlelight, especially by nighttime, Chazal said is good for checking, right? It gives off a good light. Today, there are some authorities that maintain that you're allowed to use a flashlight. You can have the lights, the electric lights on, so on and so forth. But minhag of saying to be we still use a candle. We still do the mitzvah the way it was done previously. We don't change. If some people have a hard time, you have an area that you don't feel that you can properly check with a candle, so you do everything with a candle, and you designate those areas where it's very difficult to check, that you can use a flashlight. But when you make the bracha, when you make the blessing, and you start the bedika, you start checking, that should be done, that should be done with a candlelight. Also, it's brought down, before even the time of bedikas chametz starts, before the time of checking for chametz begins, we're not allowed to do anything, meaning one should not learn, one shouldn't eat when it comes, right? So as soon as it comes the time, you shouldn't come distracted with other things. As soon as it comes the time, right away, you should be ready to fulfill the mitzvah. Yes, you could drink. Yeah, you are allowed to drink. Within half an hour to the mitzvah, you can drink, you can have a snack, so on and so forth. As soon as it hits the time to do the mitzvah, nightfall, which today is around, let me tell you so you'll have the context. Something like that, yeah. That's right. Correct. Here, I'll tell you. I don't know if this can give me for next week, but it's only getting later. So nightfall, is around 8:06 today. Okay, it's not going to give me so much, but tomorrow's 8:07, so it's going down by 1 minute. So by next week, It's going to be close to 8:20-ish, give or take. Right, today's Monday. It's for next Thursday. It's going down a minute every day. So you have 7 days for a week. Yeah, give or take, just less for Sunday. Yeah. Okay, so one cannot start any malacha, any work, right? If you want to build a house for some reason, or you want to do anything else, you want to open a business, you shouldn't do it within the 30 minutes to B'dikas Chametz of Pesach of nightfall. Also, one should not fall asleep. Of course, because if you fall asleep, you're going to miss the time. That's for sure, right? Then you have to do it as soon as you remember. Yeah, that's a good point. What happens if
If like I'm leaving my place a week before Pesach.
Oh, very good. We're gonna discuss that question. We're gonna get to Mitzvah Shem. The question was asked, what happens if you miss the time? The answer is you do this as you remember. If you forgot to do it by night, you have to do it by day. If you didn't do it by day, you have to do it during Pesach. If you forgot to do it during Pesach, you actually even have to do it after Pesach.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it's good to do it on time. Because Chazal, any chametz that was left over on Pesach, we can't use it. Right? It's chametz she'avar al Pesach, so you have to look for it to see what has to be destroyed. So eating and drinking. So a suda, an actual meal, meaning to sit down and wash, one cannot do. But te'ima, to have some fruits, to drink, meat, fish, anything which is a bracha of shahakol is allowed. Of course, you shouldn't have anything with alcohol. That's in general, but especially before the time of B'dikas Chametz, because these things will help somebody forget to do the mitzvah. And mezainis you can have less than the amount of a beya, just like a little bit if you need it. Learning also shouldn't be done within half an hour toward to the beginning of checking for chametz.
So do we learn or not?
No, even no learning, because we're afraid that you're going to get so involved in your learning, you're going to forget to do the mitzvah. Okay, that will, the other details are not so again. Okay, now let's get to how to perform the brachas for B'dikas Chametz. So as we mentioned before, B'dikas Chametz, it's proper that everything should be cleaned, prepared, so that I'm sure you already started or going to start. Yeah, okay, Baruch Hashem. Clean the air conditioners. Okay, very good. So it's brought down that before you start with the chametz, there's a custom that we wash until Sidam. We wash our hands. And actually, the Alter Rebbe brings it also in Shulchan Aruch because it's something that is purifying, so to speak, the house for the Yom Tov, for the Chag. So we're now doing something which is preparing and purifying the house for Pesach. So there's a custom that we actually even purify our hands. We wash from Til Sidayim without a bracha, of course, before we start the B'dika. Okay. So on top of using the light of a candle, we also use a feather, and we use a wooden spoon, and we gather the chametz. We use the feather, we gather it onto the wooden spoon. Sorry? Matzah, yes. Yeah. And the reason why we use a wooden spoon, not a metal spoon, is because the custom is we take all of that and we burn it when we burn for the chametz, we burn everything along with it, anything that was used for b'dikas chametz. So the blessing, the bracha for b'dikas chametz is, so we're ready to go. We have everything in hand. and we recite the blessing of Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Ha'olam. Blessed are you, Hashem, our King, the King of the world, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav, that sanctified us with His mitzvahs, v'tzivanu al bir chametz, and commanded us to destroy chametz. So it's interesting, when do we actually do the destroying of the chametz? When do we actually burn it? We don't do it that night, we do it the next day. Well, this year, we will do it Friday morning. So everyone asks, it's a big discussion, so how can you make the blessing, al bir chametz, to destroy chametz, if all you're doing right now is just checking? The answer is because the checking is a part of destroying. Meaning the chametz you're going to find now, the finding of it is the beginning of the mitzvah of the ultimate mitzvah of destroying it. Because remember, as we mentioned, there's two ways to get rid of chametz. You can either be mevatel it, make it ownerless, nullify it in your heart, or physically destroy it, right? So checking is not really the ultimate mitzvah. It's only there to help you fulfill the mitzvah of destroying the chametz. So therefore, and let's just bring it out in a different way. If you checked but you didn't destroy, did you fulfill the mitzvah? No, because it's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is destroying. This is only helping you fulfill the mitzvah of bir chametz, of destroying chametz. So therefore, you make it the blessing of al bir chametz, on destroying chametz, because this is really the beginning of that mitzvah. Now, what happens if, you're in a big rush, you wanted to make the time, and you forgot to make the blessing? So there, it's easy. If you still have more to check, you make the blessing then, and you continue checking. If you're already finished, so you don't make a blessing then you don't make a blessing. But if you really want, you can bring chametz into your room.
What?
Yeah, that's what it's brought down.
You can what?
Yeah, just don't tell anyone. Yeah, that's right. You bring chametz into your room again, and then you have to check again. So then you can make a bracha. But don't do it. It's only a theoretical suggestion which is brought down. Do not try this at home. Now, what happens if you checked what you thought was everything, and you realized, oh boy, I completely forgot to check this place, a certain area, a certain room? Do you go back and make a blessing? No, correct. So you just go and you check without a blessing. If you find, you set it aside to burn the next day. Another important thing when it comes to the blessing is as soon as the blessing is recited, you shouldn't make any interruptions. You should right away start the mitzvah, just like any other mitzvah or any other thing that you make a blessing on. Right away, as soon as you made the blessing, let's say if it's on food, you have to eat right away, right? So the exact same thing is when it comes to b'dikas chametz or checking chametz. As soon as you made the blessing al bir chametz, right away you have to start checking, as to not make a hefsek, not to make an interruption. Now, what happens if you made the blessing, right away you started checking? Can you now interrupt or speak during checking chametz? Correct. Who said no?
No.
Correct. That's right.
We're not allowed to speak.
Oh, that's right. Can speak.
It's not for that long, If it is.
The dorm's a pretty big place.
For searching.
For searching, but so here we'll see.
Someone is hiding for you, no?
Oh, we'll see.
No?
So
It's a festival. It sounds like you're saying that like we're playing hide and seek.
So what you're allowed to do is you can speak things that are related to the b'dikas chametz. Let's say you need your friend's help to check something, to lift something, so on and so forth, whatever it may be. So things that are directly connected to b'dikas chametz, that you are allowed to speak, but if you need to. But if you don't, then we don't speak during b'dikas chametz because we're still Isaac in the mitzvah. We're still fulfilling the mitzvah, right? Just like, for example, the mitzvah of tefillin. you make a blessing, you put on tefillin. There you did the mitzvah. It takes 1 second.
I've never done that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, whichever mitzvah it is. Lighting Shabbos candles. You make the blessing. Well, first you light, then you make the blessing. But you did the mitzvah. That's it. There's nothing else to do. Bedikas chametz, checking for chametz. The mitzvah is to check the entire room. So it's a mitzvah that the fulfillment of it takes more time. So that's why we don't make an interruption. If one did speak, you don't make another blessing. So if it happened, you thought of a big novelty in a Chiddush in Torah or in Chassidus, whatever you're learning, and you couldn't hold back, so you had to share it with your friend, then you don't make another blessing, you just continue to fulfill the mitzvah, to finish the mitzvah. Now, what happens if you have a few houses? Or more practically, if you have a house and you have a shed or you have a storage also. So you have to build one building and you have to walk to another building. Is that considered an interruption? So what you should do is you make the blessing, you first check the building which you made the blessing in. Once you finish that, then you can walk to the other place, and that's not considered an interruption. You can check, and that's not a problem. Now, what about having somebody else do your bedikas chametz for you? Oh, it's a good deal, right? So it depends. That's all you have to. Everything you can say depends, and you're right.
No, it really depends.
No, but
all Judaism is about depends.
That's the Jewish way.
It depends.
Fair point.
So let's put it in a family setting, because that's the most practical way to explain it. You have the head of the household. The mitzvah falls on them, right? It's their chametz. If there's a father in the family, so the mitzvah falls on him. If there isn't, then it falls on the mother, whoever the head of the household is. So the mitzvah falls on them. So what happens? If you have kids in the house, other relatives in the house that are eating from the head of the household's food, they're semech al shulchanim, they're relying on this head of the household. Let's just use to make it easy on the father. So the father would make the blessing. Everyone has in mind to fulfill that they're being yet, so that by them making the blessing, it counts to them also. And they check whatever parts of the house that they check that they're responsible for. So the mitzvah again is on the father, right? Just for this example. So the father is the one who makes the blessing. Everybody else hears the blessing from the father, and then they go to check. So they don't make their own blessing, but they hear the blessing, they listen, they answer amen, and they go and check their rooms. Yeah, it's that simple. So the truth is, if you're staying by somebody and you're eating by their house also, it's the same principles. Even though you may not be officially blood relatives, but if you're staying there, then you're considered part of the B'nai Beisai, of the people who are staying by the house. So you hear the blessing from them, and you go and check the rooms that you're designated. You don't make your own blessing, even for your own room. Even if you're checking the own room that you're staying at, you hear the blessing from the head of the household, and you check your room without your own blessing. This is a good question. And we'll see in a second. Somebody who's traveling, you're going on shluchas to help shluchim, let's say, and you're leaving before Thursday night. So this year, Thursday night, right? Let's say you have to leave, let's say Shabbos, after Shabbos, you're traveling. So the halacha is that one has to check their chametz the night before they're leaving. So sorry, let's put it, you're leaving Sunday. So you would check Motzei Shabbos, after Shabbos, that night, the night before you're leaving. So the halacha is it's done without a bracha, because the mitzvah, the way that the Chachamim established it, is to do it on the night before Erev Pesach. So if you're doing it early, you're not doing it the proper way. It's not improper, just you're not doing it the right time. So you do it without a blessing. So here is a question. This is an interesting. What's better? Is it better to you that you should do it yourself and check the night before you travel, but you're not going to be doing it at the time that the Chachamim established that you should do it? Or you can appoint a shliach, you can appoint somebody to do it for you on the right time. The shliach. Yeah. Why? You're right. Oh, because shliach shel adam kamei say. Your emissary, it's as if you're doing it. They're doing it for you. So then you gain the mitzvah to do it on time. So it's true that if somebody can do it by themselves, it's definitely better. But in this case, you're not able to. So you appoint a shliach and you're doing the mitzvah on time. The point is to do it on time. Correct. And if the balabayas, if the person whose house it is not checking anything, everything is done by the shliach, so the shliach actually makes a blessing. Because they're doing it, they're actually fulfilling the mitzvah for the owner of the house, so they are actually even doing it with a blessing. We know it's a Jewish custom that we put 10 pieces of chametz, right? And the truth is, if you'll see, it's actually brought down in Kabbalah. It's actually brought down in the Zohar. So it started as a Jewish custom. So some places are not too happy with it because in case you lose it, in case it, it can cause problems. But it's written that minig Yisrael Teirahi, and we do it. And it's actually sourced in Kabbalah. It's sourced in, So it's important to note a few things. You should wrap it in foil so it doesn't create any crumbs. This is important. It should be hard chametz, and you should wrap it up so it doesn't cause any more crumbs, not to make any more issues. And this is a very, very important point. The mitzvah has nothing to do with searching for the 10 pieces. If somebody just lays out 10 pieces and they go and find those 10 pieces or look for those 10 pieces, that's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to check the house for chametz. And as you check, you also look for these 10 pieces. So again, this is very, very important. A lot of people don't know it, that you set out the 10 pieces and then you go searching for those 10 pieces. Oh, I found them, I did it. The mitzvah is to check the house, any place where chametz is brought into, where any possibility that there's chametz in this area, there's a mitzvah to check it, to do b'dikas chametz. And as you're checking, you're also going to find, if you do a good job, all the 10 pieces. So it's important that the mitzvah is not to find the 10 pieces, the mitzvah is to check. And so much so, it's brought down, even if you checked and you didn't find any chametz, let's say you didn't lay out the 10 pieces, you still did the mitzvah. It's not a blessing in vain because the mitzvah is to search. And searching, you did. You searched high and low, you searched everywhere. So that, the mitzvah is still done.
So the one who is hiding it, he needs to know to put it in
good places.
not in weird places.
They have to put in good places, but to make sure everyone's checking.
So only when
Usually
chametz can be found.
Can be found, yeah.
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 Usually people try writing down on a paper.
Yeah,
something
very
where
important,
it is
yeah.
to find it.
Yes, the person laying out the chametz should have written down for themselves where they hid it in case they don't find it.
It is a big house.
So they try to hide it on just in the one floor or different floors.
Anywhere, doesn't matter. You can do it on 1 floor, 2 floors, whatever you want.
This is gonna request like like a game.
Yeah, that's right. It shows you if the people checked and did a good job. Yeah,
Okay, so with the dorm, our rooms, are they technically our rooms or is it all considered part of the dorm?
oh, this is an excellent question. So we'll address that now in case we don't reach to it today. What do you do in your dorm practically? Everyone is in the seminary for Pesach? Sorry? There's going to be a few. Okay, fine. So those in the dorm, it's important. Oh, this is a very good question. So in the dorm, everyone has to check, of course, their room and their personal belongings. And any shared area has to be checked by everyone. Meaning if you have a shared space, corridors, a shared room, kitchen, you seal the kitchen or you kasher it? It's kosher the Pesach.
The meat kitchen is being kosher, the dairy kitchen, soup kitchen get locked.
They get locked. Okay. So the meat, even though it's being kashered, you should still check it. It still should be checked. The living room, any shared area for everyone, the mitzvah falls on everyone. So, you can designate a person to check the couch, to check here, to check there, so on and so forth. So you all check shared areas to make it easier. But so the mitzvah belongs to everyone, and there's a mitzvah on every single person to also check their own space, their own belonging under the bed, their closet, their personal belongings to make sure that all the chametz is found and is disposed of or sold to the guy. And you make a blessing on your own area. So you go, you make a bracha, you have a mitzvah to check your own place. And together with that, any common area, the mitzvah is everyone's mitzvah. Yeah.
It's same for a rented apartment, like.
Same thing.
Girls.
That's right. The same thing for a rented apartment. So everyone has their own space, their designated area which belongs to them. So they make a blessing, they check their own space, and anything which is common, which is shared by everyone, the mitzvah is on everyone to check it. So you'll designate, okay, this area you're going to check, this area I'm going to check, so on and so forth. But the important thing is you do make a blessing on your room, on your designated area, because you have your own chametz to check for. Right? In a family setting, we mentioned that the mitzvah is on the balabayas, on the head of the house. So he makes a blessing, or whoever it is makes the blessing and has in mind everybody. But over here, you have a bunch of heads of the house, so to speak, responsible for their own areas. So, yeah, and any shared areas we mentioned, it's everyone's mitzvah. So before, yeah. For themselves, yeah. Before you start checking for yourselves, you make the blessing.
Even like we share areas, like I'm going to say like one round. Or like Mrs. Robert can take for everyone.
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. Okay. So as we mentioned, the bedika has to be done. The search has to be done with candlelight. It should not be done back then. The mitzvah is by night, so back then they had the light of the moon. That wouldn't suffice. It has to be dafka with a candle. And if somebody's doing it by day, it should not be done just with the light of the sun or outside. It has to be actually done with a candle. A car, as we mentioned, right? If somebody has a car, also you have to check it for chametz. It's part of the mitzvah. So you vacuum it, you clean it beforehand, you spray any parts of that you can't reach, but you do have to check it. And for a car, that's where many people rely on checking with a flashlight. So it's too hard, you don't want to get the wax on the seats, so on and so forth. You don't want to ruin the floors. So for that, you can use the flashlight. Yeah.
Are we allowed to be small
To rely on.
About the people who is cleaning our car?
Oh, so yeah, you can rely that they're cleaning it good, but for the night of the biggest comments, you just quickly check to make sure that they actually do their job. So you check under it's quick. With a flashlight, you check under the seats, you check by the floor. In between the seats is important, the crumbs, right? And that's it. Depends. If you don't want to use it, you can sell it. But if you want to use it, you check it to make sure it's clean, and you can use it. You don't have to sell it. And as we mentioned, what are the places that are required b'dikas chametz? Any place that you can possibly bring chametz to, even if it's just a one-time thing, they may be brought chametz, it should be checked. Even if it's not a place where you constantly use for chametz, it's still required to be checked.
If you're selling a place in your house for Pesach,
You don't
should
check.
it be sealed before?
Yes, it should be sealed before. Yeah, it should be sealed even before it's sold and designated that this area is sold. So when the guy comes to your house,
But should it be sold before you search for chametz?
so the selling happens the next day, before a certain hour of the day. So you seal it off. That way you know whatever is sealed off, it's also another good point. Whatever is sold to the guy before Pesach, you don't have to check. You seal it off, you mark it that this place is being sold, and you don't have to check it. Yeah.
The selling actually happens like before the burning.
Selling usually happens before the burning, yeah. They usually do in the morning, the day of, in the morning. It's usually what's done. Yeah,
What if you have like a lot of like kitchen cabinets, can you like sell
sure.
both of them?
Yeah, for sure.
One open?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
What's with the situation, like right now, which is going in Ukraine, so we're not living there and we're not using something there, and let's say somebody lives in an apartment, not Jewish, so using chametz.
Yeah.
So what to do in this situation?
Meaning somebody staying in a Jewish person's apartment,
Yeah, like rent an apartment,
they're renting an apartment,
yeah.
and it's not a Jewish person's chametz at all. It's a non-Jewish
No.
person's. So then it's theirs. They don't have to worry about it. It belongs to the non-Jew. It's being rented to the non-Jew, and that's it. It's theirs.
But in case to prevent yourself,
What do you mean?
I mean, like before the war, like it was like a chametz, like Jewish, like.
Oh, Jewish owned.
Yeah, Jewish chametz. So.
If you want, you can sell it. You can include the address when you sell the chametz. It will be a little bit difficult because it's a different time zone. So this is touching on a different question. If you're in different time zones, where do you sell your chametz? In your time zone or in the time zone?
In their time.
Oh, so when Pesach comes, it goes by you, where you are, not where the chametz is. So even though Pesach came over there, but for you it's not a prohibition yet. So you can include the address wherever it is. You can include it in the sale, and in case anything belongs to you, it's sold. So any holes, as we mentioned, if you have in the floor, in the wall, whatever it is, so you check as much as you could, and whatever you can reach, you nullify. Mevatel. It's not yours. Mafkir. Oh, and back to that question, yes, many people actually do that. They label most of the cabinets, let's say they'll sell to the guy, so it's labeled that it's sold, it's chametz, and then they clean out one, they wipe it down, cover it up, whatever it is, and that's what they use for Pesach. So that's 100% fine. Chametz under a fridge, under an oven, which is very heavy and you don't really move on a regular basis, you don't have to check under. But you have to nullify anything that could be possibly under. You nullify it, it's after the error, it's as if it's not yours, it's like dust of the ground, it has nothing to do with you, and that's fine.
Very stressing.
No, it's not. You'll see.
Do your best.
You'll see, all the work that's put into Pesach, when Pesach comes, it's the best holiday. It's a family holiday. There's so many things that we do that are way over the whole Yom Tov Pesach is about chinuch, is about training your children, the next generations in Yiddishkeit. That's why there's a special mitzvah right away. As soon as davening finishes, you have to come home right away. The table should be set. Start the seder right away. Why? Because the kids are going to be tired. You don't want them to fall asleep. You want them to be on the seder. There's so many things we do that to get the kids that they should ask questions. Understand, well, what's going on? Why are we doing things differently? So the whole Pesach, it's true. There's a lot of preparation. It's very, very difficult. It's not. It gets, well, you'll see, once you actually do it, it's not difficult. You make a list, you divide day by day what you're going to do. It's not that scary. But you see, the hard work that you put in before, when it comes Yom Tov, it pays off. You're going to have a very, very nice Yom Tov. Okay, Mitzvah Shem, we will continue tomorrow.
Break now. No breaks today.